Welcome back to Sportmotive, another feature episode. We're going to show you around the workshop as we usually do. Slightly different format this time. Normally I walk around an empty workshop with no work going on, so I'm actually going to show you the boys working and introduce them to you this time. Okay, so this is Eden. Eden's currently working on a TVR. This is Jack, and Jack's currently working on a TVR. And then we've got Nige, who's currently working on a TVR. And then last but not least, we've got Lyndon, currently working on a TVR. Steve's T350, a new customer that's just come to us, started using us. He bought this last year. Brought it to us for us to check over and do a service on it. We checked the valve clearances on it and they were at the end of life, basically. It was ready for an engine rebuild. So he's just ran it gently for the last few months, and then finally it's given in. We've had to pull the engine. So the engine's gone up to Simon for a full rebuild. I think we've just caught it just in time because Simon's called me this morning to say that one of the little ends was about to let go. So yeah, that's being rebuilt at the moment. We'll revisit that as we put that back together. And while it's in, Steve had got some issues with his headlamps. So dip beam wasn't working and couldn't figure out why. So we've pulled the switch gear out, the dash ECU and all the wiring, sent that off up to Paul Smith. So while it's apart, we're hoping we can get that resolved before the engine goes back in. So this is Scott's Tuscan. Scott's rebuilt the car himself. He had us repair his chassis for him a few years ago. So he's done his own body off chassis restoration and just brought the chassis to us for repair, and it was very, very good chassis. I think we literally just had to replace one body mounting plate and that was it. And then it was blasted and powder coated, and he's put it back together. But he's since decided to do the wishbones and the suspension and the bushes, so he sent it to us for us to do that because he's working abroad at the minute, so he hasn't been able to finish it. So in between, it's been into Brendan at Concept Performance for a full repaint. So Brendan just delivered it to us a few weeks ago. So we're now putting it back together. We've had all the wishbones and the uprights off, blasted, powder coated, and it's now going back together with new Bilsteins and new Powerflex bushes. And then it'll be going back up to Scott for him to finish himself. So the Cobra's still with us. It's taken a bit of time to resolve that. We've sorted the throttle pedal out now. That took a bit of time to get the right pedal. Gardner Douglas very kindly sent us a pedal, but it was the wrong one. So, but it helped us because we managed to figure out what the pedal was from, and it was just an earlier generation Corvette. So from having that part number allowed me to research on the internet and find one in the States. So we've had to wait a few weeks for that to come. That's in now, fitted. It's running again, throttle pedal's working. So we can now go on to the cooling issue that it's got. We couldn't sort the cooling issue out before because we couldn't get it to run and rev it up and get it up to temperatures, but we can do that now. So we'll move on to that. And also, once we've done that, the owner's decided he wants to do a bit of paint work on it for him. So it's going to be going up to the body shop to get a front end repaint afterwards. So the Chimaera Bear chassis we showed you last time, Jack's building this up and it's coming on now. So all the rear drivetrain's in and all four corners pretty much built. We're just waiting for the steering rack, come back from Kylie Clinton who are rebuilding that for us. We stripped the engine just to do a refresh of gaskets really, but the cam is a little bit worn, so we're going to put a cam in it. And then we've had all the ancillary parts, as we usually do, vapor blasted, ready to go back on. Okay, local Sagaris that we look after, Steve. He's had this quite a long time. We did a bit of servicing work on it a good 10 years ago, and then we've not seen it very much since. We MOT'd it for him last year. So this year he's decided it needs a full 12k service, which has been quite straightforward. We did point out last year at MOT he'd got a little bit of a weep on the steering rack, and rather than just send that off for a rebuild, we're just going to keep our eye on that because it's not so bad. And we've put an additive in, we've drained the power steering fluid, we've put an additive in that we use that's sometimes successful, sometimes it isn't, it's a bit hit and miss, but it's designed to basically lubricate dry seals. They swell up and they hopefully seal again, so we're going to keep our eye on that. The only other one issue we've had with this car is one of the caliper bleed nipples was fully seized because I don't think it's had a brake fluid change in quite a while. So that was straight off and straight into the engineering shop for it to be drilled out on the lathe, so we don't take any chances with TVR calipers because they're quite rare. So that's been and done and come back. That's ready to go back on now. I think Nigel's actually just put that on, and then straightforward service. So that's good. Okay, so 1800S. We don't look after many older ones, so it's quite nice to have one in occasionally. This is a local guy, Alex, who's just bought this. It's been restored previously, and he just wanted us to check it over and go through it. There's a few little niggly bits and pieces, service it. We've uncovered a few things that needed rectifying, which we'll show you. All the fuel hoses need replacing. It's never had a fuel filter fitted, so we've installed a Griffith Chimaera setup fuel filter. Fuel gauge wasn't working, so we've had to replace the fuel gauge itself and the sender unit. It's then had a service. We've still got a few bits to do on the service because the carbs are leaking. So it's MGB engine, 1800 MGB engine with twin 40s on. Carbs are leaking, so we've got to rebuild those. So I've been finding myself buying MGB parts and Triumph Spitfire parts for this car, hunting around the internet. So we'll lift it up now and I'll show you underneath. So as I said, it's had a previous restoration. We're not sure if it's had a full body off or whether they've just put sections into the chassis in situ. Some bits are not perfect, shall we say, and we've had to redo a few bits. So there was a bit of a cut in a tube where we've had to weld up, where it had obviously been cut while they were welding bits into the chassis. As I said, I've been hunting down Triumph Spitfire and MGB parts, so the steering rack's got quite a bit of play in it, and we found that's a Triumph Spitfire rack, so I've had to order one of those and I'm waiting for that to come. And I'm currently trying to find new drop links for the anti-roll bar because they aren't particularly well fitted or correct, so we're going to replace those. The overdrive wasn't working, but Nige found that was just a bad connection on the switch, so that was an easy fix. Whoever's built it's gone for the sort of 60s Griffith look, so they've got quite big fat tyres on it. So it was running 215 65 R15s on all round, and I think the wheel offset's not quite perfect, and the tyre was actually rubbing on the lower suspension pickup point. It had worn a groove on the inside of each rear tyre. So we've had to basically space the wheels, and we've reduced the size of the tyre, so we've gone down to a 205 65 to get that clearance. And that led on to more work, because spacing the wheels then, the studs weren't long enough. So we had to have the half shafts out, change the studs in the half shafts, and it was a bit mission creep, just went on and on. So, but it's all sorted now. So I am just waiting for carb bits and steering rack, because Alex would like to get an MOT on it. Doesn't actually need an MOT, but he wants it to be in a position where he can MOT it. There's a few other issues with seats not being bolted in properly, and half bolted into steel and half bolted into fiberglass. So we've rejigged that seat now so that it bolts into that steel section there. We've still got to put the driver's seat back in. But yeah, getting there. So Nick's Project Rocket, we're finally getting some good progress on this now. I've managed to relieve Lyndon from regular servicing work so I can get him on this, and he's getting stuck into it now. We're going through it, fine tooth comb, properly torquing everything up and doing all the final bits and pieces to get it rolling. We finished the fabrication, or the design anyway, of the radiator carrier. We've just got to take that off and fully weld it up, and we've had these side supports folded and made. We were figuring out different ways of doing it to support the radiator and keep it upright, and brackets to and from the chassis and this, that and the other, and then Lyndon came up with this idea to get these made so that will support the radiator upright with no fixings in any fiberglass, so it's fully supported in steel and alloy. So yeah, brakes coming together, rear end's pretty much fully built, so It's about ready, it'll be going on its wheels soon. So. Lewis's T350, well-known car that we look after, in for just a minor service, but he'd got a bit of a misfire which turned into a bigger job. We'd got one lambda sensor down, which is one issue, but we were still struggling with fueling on it, so we ended up having to have the fuel tank out because we had a look inside the fuel tank and there was lots of debris and crud and perished rubber, we think, inside the fuel tank. There's 2 pumps inside the tank that are fed by rubber hoses integral inside the tank, and they were perishing, so we've had to replace those. And the filters on the bottom of the pumps were all full of crud, so they all needed replacing. So we've done that. So that's quite a big job. It's tank out, tank stripped down and cleaned out. And it's the 3rd T350 we've had to do with that, so it's becoming a common issue. They also, we've discovered that they rub on the body mounting bolts on the inside of the chassis, and if you're not careful it will rub through the fuel tank. We have had one do that and it needed a TIG weld repair. So it is something that we keep our eye on now with T350s, and obviously Sagaris as well, it's going to be the same issue. My Audi's getting a lot of love at the moment. As we previously said, I was having clutch issues, so we've had clutch in and out, and then we've had to do the clutch hydraulics now, so it's now had clutch slave and clutch master cylinder. And it was getting a bit tatty and ropey underneath. It's lived in north top of Scotland by the sea most of its life, so I decided that while the gearbox was out, we'd do some underside treatment, and it's previously had the front subframe replaced, so I managed to get a reconditioned rear subframe for it. Audi in their wisdom have deleted most of the stock for this car now, though it's too old for them, so we've struggled on certain things, and it's been on the ramp for a couple of weeks waiting for parts. But it's finally coming together now, and we'll show you some of the work we've done underneath that. So while we're doing this, the exhaust system's very ropey as well. And a late night eBay purchase, I've managed to find myself a second-hand Miltech. A guy was selling his S4 Cabriolet and decided to pull the exhaust off and sell it separately. I hadn't realised when I bought it though that it was quad tails, and I wasn't quite sure that it was going to work. But now Jack's made a very good job of trimming the bumper out, and I'm quite pleased with that. And after getting literally no votes from my Audi and the V8 sound off, I'm hoping this is going to sound a fair bit better once we've fitted that. So. Back in the fabrication workshop, the 2 Evolution Griffith chassis that we've been working on, they're pretty much fully finished now, and we're now dry building. So this one's having this LSA engine, supercharged, basically a supercharged LS3, and we are dry building it because we've not used this particular gearbox before. This is a latest generation TR6060 gearbox that's designed for a dual mass flywheel and clutch setup, so it's got quite a bit bigger bell housing, and it's also got an integral oil cooler, so an oil pump that has to be fed out to an oil cooler, so it's a bit more difficult for us to install and package in, so we wanted to just dry build it, make sure it was going to fit, and we're having to make a different gearbox mount than we normally make. Same sort of design that we normally make with a fixed cross member, but it's quite a bit further back than where it normally is. And so we've also, for now, we've not put the handbrake mounts in again because we're not exactly sure what's going to be in our way when we put the handbrake lever in and the cable. Same with the other one because that's getting an LT1 engine, so that will probably end up with the same gearbox. It's spec'd by GM for that engine setup basically. So GM do connect and cruise packages as they call them. So you get an engine and a gearbox in a kit. And I'd already got this LSA engine. We've fitted these before. We fitted one of those in a Chimaera before, and we put a T56 Magnum on the back of that one. But this one, we had to get a new gearbox, so I basically ordered what was spec'd for it. So yeah, this is a monster. When this is fitted, the one we did before was 625 horsepower and 640 foot-pound of torque, and it makes 500 foot-pound of torque at 2,000 revs. So it's pretty instant torque. So yeah, it needs a gearbox to go with it. This one's having a later generation LS LT engine, the LT1, so it's not supercharged. It's basically the successor to the LS3. And the only other slight modification we've made to this chassis is this customer wants us to do the wide body conversion as we've done on the Griffith downstairs. So we've made the chassis basically so we can put much wider tyres on as we've done with the one downstairs. So we moved that tube there. We've put that curve in and that tube there. Normally that tube comes all the way to that corner with a seatbelt anchoring plate there that the seatbelt reel gets attached to. So we've modified that, moved that, and we're going to build a seatbelt reel carrier into this side outrigger tube there that will sit upright there. Again, we've not put the handbrake fixings in yet until we've got the engine and gearbox in. And then while we've got the engines in, we're going to build the exhaust manifold. So we've got the flange plates laser cut ready, so we can start building exhausts. So pretty tight, some tricky fabrication work to go in there. And here's one of ours we made earlier. So these are actually from Nick's Project Rocket Chimaera that's got the LT4 engine in. They've got slightly different flange plates. They've got an oval port rather than the round port from the LS3. So again, we've had to have these laser cut so that we can make our own exhaust manifolds. Okay, downstairs in the body shop, we've got the track car, the Tuscan track car that we showed you previously. We've got the out storage now. It's been prompted by somebody needing an engine for rebuild, and I've decided we're going to LT engine this, so it's a good opportunity to take the engine out and get that sold. So that's going down to Dormant Power for one of his customers to have rebuilt, and then leaves me a hole to fit an LT engine in. The next stage with this is taking the body off, and we're going to build a full roll cage for it, and then it'll obviously body back on, and then we'll start to install an engine. Yeah. Moving on, doing a body off partial restoration of this Tuscan. We've been warning the customer with this for quite a few years that it's getting to the stage where the outriggers were looking pretty poor and ropey. He doesn't want to go the whole hog and have a full chassis restoration. So we opted to, we were going to try and do outriggers on it in situ, but we just looked at it and it was just impossible basically. So we've had to take the body off. We've already developed a kit, an outrigger kit in our chassis jig upstairs, because we'd previously built outriggers on Tuscan chassis on the table. So we made outrigger kit for it. So we've temporarily fitted those, test fitted them basically. We're going to get those powder coated before we weld them on. So we'll just powder coat up to an edge and then mask an edge so that we can weld them onto the main chassis. And as you see there, we were right to take them off. So obviously from underneath, don't look so bad. We have seen them where they've rotted the pedal box tray through. This one isn't so bad, but we were more concerned about these areas here. And obviously from underneath, it did look pretty ropey. So new fabricated sections ready to go on, ready to be powder coated and then go on. So we've had all these parts, laser cut, folded, seat frames, pedal box tray and battery mounts. So that's actually our adjustable pedal box tray. So you've actually got some side movement in it if you wanted to move the pedal box to either side, because there is absolutely no space on the left hand side, so it's an option. So last time we were here we showed you 2 Chimaera front end crash repairs that we were repairing. They're now finished and gone. We'll just show you some footage of those, and those left on the same day with two customers collecting those together, so they were 2 very happy Chimaera owners. This T350 is a local customer we've looked after for a good 10 years or so. He's had various bits of paintwork before over the years, so we did a front end repair, just a minor repair, and the back of the driver's door some years ago, and then rear end panel got damaged at some point, so it's had a rear panel repair, and it's started to get to the point where it's got lots of blow-ins that we don't like doing. So Graham was asking about having the front end repainted, but we've talked about it again. We've gone down the route of a full repaint now. So we're starting to gap all the panels before we pull it apart, because obviously we're going to put another 8 layers of paint and material on top of that. So we take the material off before we start, make sure all the panels are lined up and gapped before we take everything off. So both doors have been done, and we've started to do the engine bay. So where the bonnet was fouling that wing there, fouling the scuttle, and the back edges of the bonnet, so always foul the windscreen wipers. So that's all been gapped and edges repaired. And then we're just starting to take off material that we need to take off front end wise, because as I say, it's had a few front end repaints in its life, so get it back down to the original fiberglass substrate so we can start again basically. This Griffith's come in for it's a rear end damage insurance repair, and then the customer's elected to have a full repaint while it's here. And again, the paint was very poor on it. We've had to take all the paint off it basically, the whole body. And when we took the front paint off it, it showed up some previous repairs that hadn't been done particularly well. And you could see those, there was crazing around the driver's side headlamp, and there was quite a bit of cracking, and it had got lots of body filler in it, so it all had to come out. We still got to do a bit of reshaping work on that headlamp aperture there. But that's all been re-fiberglassed properly and is ready for the next primer stage now. It's had an initial coat of resin primer, and it's ready for its just normal 2-pack primer now. So yeah, it got quite substantial rear damage, which we'll show you some pics and video of. We managed to save it though without having to replace a panel. We cut it all back and pulled it back to shape, and then re-fiberglassed it all back into shape. And yeah, finally this T350 just in for a front end repaint, just chips and usual bits of damage. Not very good paint on it. It was coming off in big chunks, so again we've had to take that right back to fiberglass in places. But yeah, all done now, ready to go out. Just number plate back on and polish, and it'll go. So that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one, when hopefully we'll have made more progress on this thing.